Hey, hi, hello, welcome to another episode of What I Watched This Month, February edition. I started things off by rewatching Uncut Gems. This holds up way better on a rewatch, and I already really liked it, so what does that say? There are so many pieces and interesting choices in regards to sound and visuals being made, and knowing how the story pans out and being able to notice these details a little better makes for a very exciting experience. That was a very long sentence. Then I watched Honeyland. This is a documentary I was very excited for and was a little let down by, not gonna lie. I love how original it is and how quiet and unique the tone feels, but that said, it feels kinda empty to me. I felt more like I was observing something, and that something wasn't really saying a whole lot. I was interested, but I didn't care. Or maybe it's the other way around, I'm not quite sure. Then I watched North by Northwest, one of Hitchcock's many classics. I enjoyed this a lot. It brought much of what I enjoy about his work to the table. It's super funny too, definitely focuses a lot more on having fun than taking itself too seriously. But aside from all of that, it left me the least wowed by the end compared to most of what I've seen by him. As a film, fantastic. As a Hitchcock film, there are some better ones out there. I then watched The Bling Ring for my podcast. It is one of the worst lit films I've ever seen. I don't think, genuinely, that there is a single good-looking shot in the entire movie. It's all pretty hideous or just plain bland, but in those shots is a lot of bad acting and weird line deliveries that all amounts to a very interesting experience. The best thing I can say is that I definitely never felt bored, but because of that I think it's pretty brilliant in what it is trying to say about the youth culture of today or of that time. I think it's a very weird film, maybe even an awful film, but incredibly self-aware, so I think I kinda like it. Then I watched Paul Schrader's Cat People. Extremely 80s, extremely sexual, and extremely Paul Schrader. I had a good time with Cat People, but yeah, it was easily one of the horniest films I've ever seen. The atmosphere of the film is so humid, which is hard to fully embrace when in a theater that is blasting the AC. It felt like a good film to watch in February because, yeah, you know, Valentine's Day. But regardless, fun time, don't know if I'll ever see it again though. Then I watched Buffalo 66, Vincent Gallo's critically acclaimed debut. Now I don't really know how I feel about Gallo as a guy. From what I've read, he kinda seems like a jackass, but that's not the point here. The movie is pretty great. I loved how it's essentially a modern take on traditional filmmaking. I can't say there's anything out there that feels like this film. I don't blame anyone for not entirely liking the artistic choices he goes with here and there, but I thought each of them were incredibly well placed. Similar to The Bling Ring, I can't really say everything was a great choice, but it was never a wrong choice. I don't know. Much more to say, I'll elaborate sometime in the future. Then I rewatched The Grand Budapest Hotel simply because I wanted to pregame for the French Dispatch trailer, which by the way looks unbelievable, holy shit. Not a whole lot to add here. I think this is Wes Anderson's most ambitious work and certainly one of his best. Then I rewatched Honey Boy. It's been a while since I caught this at Sundance and I gotta say it still holds up. I think more than anything it's such a well-written piece of work. Alma Harrell brings out vulnerability from everyone on screen, and as a result you feel like you're sitting in on a therapy session, or even better, the mind of Shia LaBeouf. But not in an intruding way. It feels like a very helpful and reflective process. Then I watched Sonic the Hedgehog. It ain't too bad. Then I watched Luca Guadagnino's short film The Staggering Girl. I do love Guadagnino's filmmaking and his visual style, but this was very boring and lacked anything to hold on to emotionally, something that is critical to how his films work. Then I watched Noel Miller's short film, Suki. It's super well done from a technical standpoint. Noel certainly knows what he's doing. Knowing how funny and weird his humor is, I'd like to see him push it just a tad further with his script and storytelling. My point is, I cannot wait to see what he does next. Then I watched Brittany Runs a Marathon. There are a lot of people out there who love this film and claim it means a lot to them, and I can totally see why. It's a very harmless film with a niche topic that feels unexplored in the film industry. Of course people will connect to it, but to me this didn't work at all. I didn't think it was that funny, and to be frank, Brittany was not a very nice character. She was honestly an asshole, and the pacing left me feeling like she didn't necessarily grow a whole lot by the end. It has a whole lot of heart going for it, but it just was not for me. Then I rewatched Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Do I need to say anything? It really is a masterpiece. Then I watched Stranger by the Lake, a French film from 2013. I would tell you the plot, but it's one of those where if you decide to watch it, you should probably know very little about it going into it. This had me on the edge of my seat, using tension in a way that feels super similar to Hitchcock. It also explored themes of queer desperation in a way I truly can't say I've seen before in film. I love this thing the more I think about it, and it's totally worth checking out. Then I watched Birds of Prey and the Harley Quinn. I really didn't like this that much. I'm just gonna recite my Letterboxd review because I thought I put it pretty well there. Birds of Prey ends with 20 minutes of colorful and flawlessly choreographed action. It says fuck you to traditional comic book endings and leaves you feeling like you actually did see a movie that takes that style in a fun and unique direction. But unfortunately, almost everything before those last 20 minutes is a typical messy and heartless superhero film covered in glitter and empty eccentricity. The highs of this make me excited for another Harley Quinn film, if that happens, and the lows had me questioning if anybody out there really likes this character. Like, seriously, does anybody actually like this character? That's what I gotta say about it. Cool fact, the person in front of me threw up halfway through the film. Then I rewatched The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou for my podcast, The Karsten, available wherever you get your podcasts. Then I rewatched Lady Bird, Is It Better Than Little Women? Watch my video to find out. Then I continued my Jacques Tati binge and watched Traffic. I'm trying. I'd first like to say that I'm glad a lot of you decided to check out Playtime by Tati after my last diary. That made me very happy. And don't get me wrong, this one is also really good. He really does get better and better with his visuals with each film, even though this is after he got financially fucked from Playtime. It has tons to love and a lot to offer. It may not be as complex or as dense as Playtime, but it's still pretty good. Then I watched Spring Breakers, and I kinda liked it. It was very dark and pretty disturbing at times. Did it age well? I don't want to say too much. Let's just say I'll be answering that in my next video. Then I watched Force Majeure and Downhill back to back. Force Majeure is a beautifully patient look at the male ego, and Downhill is nothing, literally. And finally, I finished my month off with Bong Joon-ho's Okja. I found this to be pretty similar to everything I've come to expect from his work. It was fun, it was sad, it was thought-provoking, it was tense, it had a little bit of everything. Structurally, it's definitely a little messy compared to what I'm used to. The momentum does not feel at all consistent. Like, I can't really say there's a single bad scene in this thing. They all work really well in their own ways, but they don't all come together as smoothly as they should. But regardless, I still really loved this film. The ending was really sad, but really happy at the same time. I don't know how to feel about it. At some point in there, I also watched all of the Oscar-nominated live-action short films. I won't review all of them because that'll be a waste of time, but my favorite was Nefta Football Club, and that should have won. I also got through most of the animated short films, and I have to say my favorite was Kit Bull. Anyways, thanks for watching. Check out all these films and form your own opinion, and I'll see you all in the next one.